All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we get into geometry, okay? So today we're going to talk about lines, segments, and rays. And we're going to define all of these and how to name them properly. But before we get into that, we need to know the most basic element in geometry, which is a point, okay? Now, we've used points many times when you're graphing, right? When you're graphing on a graph, you locate a point, right? So a point would be, let's say, like 1 and then 2, right? And so we have 1 over and 2 up. And so that's a point. A point is just a location somewhere, okay? So here we have 3 examples of points: point A, point R, and point J. Okay, and we just name them. Let's say if that was point A, I would just mark it right there. Okay, and if I had another point, let's say R right there, and then J over here, right? And if I wanted to connect these, I could do that, right? But it's not just always going to be a triangle. Sometimes it's just going to be a point by itself. Let's say this was point W. Okay, so again, a point is simply a location somewhere. It could be on a graph, it could be on a plane. I don't mean an airplane, I mean a plane, like this is a plane here, like the graph, okay? That's an example of a plane. All right, now, moving on. What is a line? Now, if I tell you get in a line, get in a straight line, right? Then you automatically know you've been using that word line since elementary school, right? When they tell you to get in line. Now, what is a geometric definition? Well, here's a simple definition: a collection of points. So we already know what a point is. It's a location somewhere. So this is a collection of points organized in a straight line or in a straight path that extends forever in opposite directions. Okay, so imagine a number line, right? We have a number line and it has all the numbers that there are, right? So if we start in the middle, that's 0, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then in the other direction, -1, -2, -3, -4. So that's a number line, right? All these numbers are organized in a straight path, and it goes forever in both directions, and they are going in opposite directions, right? So to the right and then to the left, or it could be going up or down like it does in a graph here, like we have a positive and negative going down, or positive going to the right and negative going to the left, right? So that's all a line is. It's a collection of points organized in a straight line or straight path that extends forever in opposite directions. Now, here I have some examples of lines. Notice they have letters now. B, C, D are points on this line. There are multiple and various points in between these with different names, right? Different. Remember, a point can be just a letter of the alphabet. But we only are listing the points that we are only interested in using here. So B, C, D, or X, M, and then notice here I have 5 letters: T, U, V, W, X. Okay. Now a line will always have at least 2 points to be named by. Okay. Now notice here. To name this line, I just need to pick any 2 points and then name it that way. So notice, since this one has 3 points, I can name it BC. Okay, but above it, I need to put the arrowheads here, like that. That's a symbol of a line. Okay, I could also name this in the other direction. I could also name it CB. Both of these indicate the same line, okay, so it's not a different line here. I could also name this line CD, or the other direction, DC. Okay, or I can name it BD, or DB. Now, using the information I have in this line, I've named this line in every possible way I could. Notice here, I did not miss anything. I did not miss CB, it's right there. I did not miss BC, so they are all here. Now, what about this one, XM? Right? Again, to name a line, just pick any 2 points on the line and then write them together. So this will be XM, but then I must include the little arrowhead above it. Okay, so there's XM. What's the other way I can name it? Well, in reverse, MX. Okay, notice the arrowheads indicate that this goes forever in that direction and it goes forever in the other direction as well. So M goes forever this way, and X goes forever that way. Now here, I'm not going to list all of them because it's many, but really all I need to do is pick any 2 points. I could pick the 2 in the middle. I could say VW. That's one way of naming this line. Or I could even say VX. Right, remember, you are able to put them in reverse, and that counts as a separate name for it. Okay, or I could even say TX. Or TU. Okay, or I could even skip TV. Again, there are other ways I can name it because I have several letters here, but you only need to use any 2 points on the line and make sure you use the symbol of a line above it. It's basically a line, it has the 2 arrowheads at the end, okay? Moving on, we get into line segment. Now a segment, by definition, means a section, okay, or a piece of it. So a line segment is a section or segment of a line identified by its endpoints. Okay, so notice here I have a line here, right? Because it has the end, the arrowheads on the ends. However, I can still say BC is a line segment as long as I go ahead and draw a little line segment above it. Okay, so BC, remember in the last example, right here, that's BC, the line, but in this example, even though I have the same picture here, this is BC, the line segment. That means I'm only talking about from here to there. It's a piece or a section of a line, okay? I could also name line segment CB, okay? Or I could say line segment DC. But remember, a segment is only a piece of a line, so I'm only referring to the piece in between these 2 endpoints, okay? Now notice here, if I say BD, the line segment, I'm talking about the segment or the piece from B all the way to D. Notice it includes C. C is in between these 2 endpoints. So that means I'm talking about from here all the way to here. This line segment is longer than this segment from C to D, right? Which I have here listed as DC. So this line segment is smaller than this segment here from B to D, okay? Now notice this line segment here, it doesn't have the arrowheads. So here I'm only given the piece of the line already. So this can only be written this way or in the opposite direction, okay? So there is no other way to name this line segment because I only have 2 endpoints. Okay. Now here I had 3 points on this line. So I'm able to name it by segment using CD, CB, or BD. This one I only have the endpoints. There's no point in between, so I can only name it by its endpoints. Okay. JK, similarly here, it's just going to be JK with a segment above it. Notice I do not have the arrowheads on any of these. Also again, KJ would be another name for it. Okay. Now, what about array? Array is one side of a line named after the endpoint and another point in the direction of the ray. So notice here, I have again a line, right? Why is it a line? Because it has 2 endpoints. But if I'm interested in array, then I need to pick an endpoint. Okay, so let's say B, and then I need to pick a point in the direction that the ray is going. So if I go from here to that direction, then I have to pick a point like C, and I would name it like that, in that direction. Notice the endpoint is on the side of the B. So let's say I want to name endpoint BD. Okay, it would go like that. What if I want to go from D this direction, DB? Now the endpoint is on the D. Notice here I'm going from this direction, from here to the left, right? And so I'm going towards the B, so this would be the direction from D towards the B. What if I wanted to go from C towards the B? C, B, and then you just put the arrow on the B, okay? Now look at this one here. There's only one way I can name this ray. It's JR. because J is the endpoint, okay? And R is on the path that the ray is going. But notice, if I wanted to say RJ, that's not going to be a ray, because notice R is an endpoint, and if I go this way, J, I stop. It does not continue like it did on this side. You see, this side does not have an arrowhead, so I cannot name the ray from R to J. I can only name it from J to R because it's continuing the path in that direction. Look over here. P is the endpoint, O is in the direction that the ray is going. And so this can only be named PO with the ray on the O, okay, with the arrowhead on the O. What about this one? Can I name it MA? No, because A is the endpoint and M is in the direction of the ray, okay? So I can only name this AM like that. Notice the endpoint is on the A and the M has a little arrowhead because it continues in the direction of the M, not in the other direction. Okay. Last one, an angle. Okay. Now, I think the first time you guys ever heard angle is in the word triangle, right? What does triangle mean? It means tri means three, angles means, well, what we're going to define right here. So 3 angles, right? Notice here, what is an angle? It's 2 rays connected at the same endpoint. Okay. So 2 rays, we already talked about what a ray is. Okay, it's got an endpoint and then it goes forever in the other direction, right? Well, right here we have 2 rays connected at the same endpoint. So notice here, we have 2 rays and they're connected at this endpoint here. This endpoint here is called the vertex. Okay, now how do you name an angle? Well, the angle is this little piece right here, this area or this section here in between the 2 rays, okay? And so it's a measurement that we measure in degrees, okay? It's basically the arc formed from these 2 rays, okay? And we measure that in degrees. We'll get to that in a different lesson. But today we're just going to be naming these angles. So how do you name an angle? Well, when there's only one vertex, okay? When there's only one vertex that is being used here, or one endpoint being used to form 2 rays, then we can just name it by the vertex. So this would be called angle A. Notice the symbol I use here. It's a little angle symbol here, okay? Now, I could also name it by going around the angle. So I could start out here on the top of the ray. I could go C, A, B. So I could name it like this. Angle CAB. Do not put anything above these letters, okay? This goes on the left here. And then I could also go in the other direction. BAC. Angle BAC. Notice here how the vertex must be in the middle here. So notice the A is in the middle, the A is in the middle right there, and A is by itself right here. Okay? Notice here, we have now another angle here. Okay? So now this time the vertex is B. So I can name this by angle B. And then over here I could also name it by going around. Remember A, B, C. So this will be angle A, B, C, and then angle C, B, A. Notice how I had the same letters used, but they were in a different order. A was the vertex here. Here, B is the vertex. Okay. Now, this is a special angle here. Notice it's still 2 rays connected at the same endpoint. So the endpoint is B, and then it goes forever in that direction. It goes forever in that direction. So it's 2 rays connected at B. This is what we call a straight angle or a straight line. So a straight line, you're right, is a straight angle. Okay? It's an angle that's 180 degrees. We'll talk about that in the future, okay? But let's name this angle here. This straight angle, we could name it angle B. Okay, B is the vertex. We could also name it angle A, B, C, or we can name it in the other direction, C, B, A. Okay, we're almost done here, guys. Take a look here. This is like a bird's foot, like this, right? You see them walking in the sand, and they leave their footprints behind, right? Those seagulls, or sometimes they're called crow's feet if you have them on your eyes, right? Now, notice here, we have a vertex right here, but it's being shared by ABD, by DBC, and then by ABC. So here we cannot just name this angle by its vertex because there's more than one angle here. When it's only one angle, then we could just name it by its vertex. But here we have more than one angle, so we cannot name it by its vertex when that happens, okay? So let's name some angles here. Take a look here. I have ABD. So angle ABD refers to this angle ABD right here, okay? And again, I can name it in the other direction, DBA. That would be the same angle. Angle DBA is the same angle here, okay? Let's call it angle 1 if you wanted to. So that's angle 1 right here. All these, both of these are angle 1. Now, what about this angle here? Let's call that angle 2 for now. This is the same. This angle here is DBC. So again, I am still using B as my vertex because it's in the middle, but I just cannot name the entire angle by its vertex. So I have to be more specific. DBC. Okay, or CBD. Now, these two angles are the same angle. These two angles are the same angle. Okay, just written in reverse. Now, there's actually one other angle right here that goes from here all the way across to the other side. Okay, and we could call that angle 3. So this would be ABC. It's the larger angle. Angle ABC, and then we could also name it in the other direction, CBA, angle CBA. Notice in all these cases, the B is in between the other 2 points, okay? And that's just because whenever you're naming an angle, the vertex must go in the middle, okay? Now take a look here. Earlier I mentioned a triangle. Notice here I have a triangle here and a triangle there. Right? Triangle means 3 angles. So notice I have an angle up here, I have an angle up there, and here, right? And so that's triangle. It has 3 angles. There's also angles right here. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So I have 2 triangles. Each triangle has 3 angles. That's why it's called a triangle, okay? So now let's name these angles here. Let's name some angles here. So remember, you always want to go all around with the vertex in between. So say I wanted to say PSR, let's call that angle 1. Angle PSR would be this angle right here. Okay. What if I wanted to name that angle there? Number 2. Well, I would name it SPR, angle SPR. Or I could say RPS. Or angle RPS. RPS is the same angle 2 right there, okay? What about PSR? We said PSR. What's another way I can name angle PSR? Well, just go backwards. RSP. Okay? What about, let's name this angle right here. I'll call it angle 3. Well, it's part of this triangle, right? So I have to say SRP, so angle SRP, or PRS. Just go backwards, PRS. Okay? So that takes care of this angle, this triangle there. What if I want to name that triangle there? I'm just using happy face, sad face, just to show you the 2 different triangles, right? So this is the happy face side. Let's do the sad face triangles, right? So let's say I want to name this angle right here. It would be PRQ. Let's call this angle 4. PRQ would be angle PRQ, or just go backwards, QRP. You don't even have to look at the picture. Okay, QRP. What about angle 5 right there? If I want to name angle 5, that would be RQP. Just make sure you leave the Q, the vertex, right in between, right? So 5 has the Q there, so it would be angle RQP. P, or just go backwards, PQR. And then the last one, we'll call it 6 there. So P has to go in the middle, so I'll just go QPR. Angle QPR, or just go backwards, RQP. R. Oops, did I mess up here? RPQ, sorry. P has to be in the middle. Notice how I messed up here? So that's wrong. This should be RPQ. Okay, and that's it, guys.